suicide moment at the end of last season. Did that change him at all? Like when he was thinking of killing himself?
I think so. Yeah. Certainly, it impacts a lot on Norman's relationship with his mother in the third season. The fact that he's taken this, in some ways, an incredibly sort of selfless step of saying, I'm going to remove myself from this world because I think that's for the kind of greater good, and in order to protect everyone, and especially Norma is the kind of ultimate thing he's trying to do in terms of loving her. And so with the knowledge that that's taking place, there's this added pressure and added dynamic in their relationship in the third season that I think hinges around the fact that they're so close and that he loves her more than anything, more than himself.
Is he going to trust himself when he's around his friends and family now that he knows about his evil side?
Well, it's so interesting for Norman, of course, to not know exactly what goes on at certain moments, and starts doubting himself even at times when perhaps he shouldn't be. But there's always going to be this side to him that's slightly unsure about what has happened, and waking up one morning and thinking, oh, was this actually what happened, or was it not the reality?
Carrie, at this point, what can you tease about season 3?
Not much. Season 3 is very much about the characters trying to figure out right and wrong. Walking through that kind of murky terrain. Norman definitely is getting to a point where he is more torn between two parts of him, and in a lot of ways, it's about kind of the battle for his soul, for who he is. Norma is going through a lot of enlightenment. In a weird way, Norma has become so much stronger since we first met her, and she's starting to develop the ability to look at the truth a little bit, which she has never really been strong enough to do before. So that's a really interesting development for her character. Yeah, I think I can't really say. I'm trying to think of details and I can't. I'm sorry.
Well, going off of that, sort of, what are the advantages of anyone knowing the truth? Because we sort of suspect he's not really going to get treatment and become sort of a regular functioning member of society. So
that's where you're wrong.
but what is sort of the arc that you can have where is there room for improvement, or is Norman really just down?
Well, I think part of what we chose to do with the story from the beginning was actually really examine the possibility that there were options along the way, and that's kind of why it becomes a tragedy, ultimately, because there are things that could have been done differently if people had been more enlightened, had been more, psychologically healthy and stronger. There's a lot of different ways things could have played out, but because they are the people that they are, fate has to be in control, and it has to push in a certain direction. But watching that unfold in a really nuanced way is really fascinating.
I wonder if Nestor and Max can talk about where things left off and this sort of new dynamic between your characters, and what it's like for Dylan to be in this position, and what it's like for Romero to. It was interesting to see, obviously, Romero and the authority he is to say, yeah, this is the guy to head the crime in my town.
Do you want to start it? I think obviously we left off in kind of a really interesting situation, because it's a big question in the town. I mean, obviously both families have kind of been broken down. But I think what's interesting is, and it kind of plays along with what Carrie's talking about, the sort of trying to figure out right and wrong, these characters. I think Dylan kind of has a similar battle, and is kind of questioning whether he wants to be a part of this world, or and how involved really he wants to be with everything.
Yeah, I think the dynamic between our characters, it sort of came to be sort of a kind of a working relationship, or hopefully a working relationship at the end of season 2. Part of it was due to the function, the reality that these two families that essentially ran the economy of the town took each other out, and Dylan was left standing. But I think Romero sees in him all of these incredible possibilities, and he's also strangely drawn in some way to the whole Bates family. He has been drawn, obviously to Norma. I think he sees a female counterpart in her. She's equally as stubborn as he is, equally as guarded, but also resolute in her ways. I think in Norma he sees possibility of a surrogate son who obviously needs some attention, and I think in Dylan he sees a younger, maybe perhaps a younger version of himself. This guy who's trying to do the right thing, and with the cards he's been dealt. And so I think he's strangely drawn to all of them, and it's maybe the family he wished he kind of had, and he feels somehow akin to them. And I think for me the show that's what it's about, is about this dysfunctional family trying to do the best they can with what they got.
Where do things stand between Norman and Emma in the new season?
It's super interesting. I'm trying to think of what I can tell you. Norman and Emma, Emma in general is really pulled much more intimately into the Bates family this year. I think a lot of last season was about them having all these secrets and her always being outside of it, and this is very much the answer to that. She really made a statement that she wanted to be part of the family, and sort of, because she always gave her whole heart to them, and I think she didn't feel like it was reciprocated. So she definitely is drawn into the family very deeply this year. Her and Norman will always be close. What the nature of their relationship is, what the packaging of it is called, is, that changes. But their relationship is always pretty pure and consistent. Yeah.
Olivia, can you talk about that a bit? Because obviously last season she was trying to leave, the job and kind of step away a bit, but then they were both saying, hey, why don't you stick around? So
I think it's just something that about Norman that Emma just can't resist and hasn't really quite gotten over. So this season she's still at the motel, and yeah, her and Norman get closer in a way that Emma is quite excited about, but is then kind of perturbed by his actions and maybe his lack of actions.
Well, she saw sort of the evidence of Norman's other side last season. Does she process that at all? I mean, does she realize that maybe to some degree she should be scared of him, or?
I don't think so. I think she's always felt quite safe with Norman, especially when at the lake, when he was kind of the one that dragged her out of the lake, and it was her main protector when the person that she was seeing kind of stood back and kind of recoiled a bit. So I think she's always felt this safety with him, and no matter what, I think she'd feel like Norman could never really hurt her. But
the funny thing about Norman with women is that because he's so guarded and interior, women, I think, project onto him what they think he is. So I think because Emma has such a beautiful heart, she just projects onto him, her version of him. And then Norman does have a beautiful heart.
He's
nice.
On the car on the way over, you and I were talking about how there are few actors who could uniquely do what Freddie and Vera do, because you have a certain innocence in addition to a sophistication about you. You can't, you're not just completely naive. No, but you have all of those. You have an angelic nature about you that you can get away with that.
Yeah.
As an actor in this role.
Yeah, it's just kind of amazing, like when you see them do the scenes where they're like in bed together or hugging really close, and it just seems
it's just normal.
It just seems okay. Yeah. And there's a lot of I don't think a lot of people could get away with that.
Well, what can you speak upon Norma and Norman's relationship moving forward in season 3?
That also is very much thematically tied into good and evil and trying to navigate the high road between them. And I think they both have a growing awareness of their need for each other, and that it may not perhaps be always 100% mentally healthy, but also just that great, that's in conflict with that great passion that they have for each other, which is, in a certain respect, about family and about not wanting to be alone and about, feeling safe with someone in a world that's scary. And I think that's one of the things that we really love about the show, is that it is so much about the longing for family that everyone has. I mean, Dylan just breaks my heart. He's just I really honestly think all Dylan wants in the world is a family. Just like a simple life with a family, and it's
How does that work out for him?
we
this
take
coming
that for
season?
granted. It's actually going in a very interesting direction. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's